Our buddy, our pal, Jon Morosi is here with us. How are you, my friend?
Bob and Dave, I'm outstanding, and I do have a question for you. Are you trying to suggest, based on the fact that the trident on your hat is actually pointing sideways, that the Mariners are going sideways at the moment, that things are not going down the tracks the way you want them to go?
Well, this is the Everett Aqua Sox hat. So, yeah, and it is sideways. It is a little this is a hard team. 80 games in, we still don't have any idea who this team is, John. They put up 17 runs in the first two games of the series. The last two, they score one. And you get shut down by mediocre pitching, and just they make guys that are otherwise having a rough stretch look like Cy Young. And it's sort of been their history where they'll find a guy, he's coming in with an ERA over 5. You look at his last 4 starts, he's got an ERA of 6 for the month of June, and all of a sudden they find it against the Mariners. It's uncanny.
The mercurial Seattle Mariners. I think that is the description we could give them. And yes, by the way, my apologies to the Aqua Sox. They have changed their logo since the time that I drove up there during my season covering the Mariners to cover the Northwest League debut of a young Michael Saunders.
Wow.
I remember speaking to Michael Saunders after that game. So I have been to that beautiful ballpark in Everett, hometown, of course, of Grady Sizemore, Everett Cascade High School. I remember that well. So I would say this, that the Mariners are exactly what their record says they are. They are an average team right now that probably has a higher probability of making the playoffs than they deserve, if I could be that candid at the moment, just based on the way the American League looks, that most teams in the American League, if your name is not the Orioles, the White Sox, or perhaps the Athletics, you're basically in the hunt at the moment. And I think with the Mariners, a couple things stand out. At least now Logan Gilbert has made it back. The bullpen is solid. For the most part, they have chances to win games. Offensively, we know that Raleigh is basically in a two-man race with Aaron Judge for the MVP at the moment. He has been sensational, historic, and that's important. I think you've seen some strides of late from Solano. Getting Raleigh back is helpful. But there are too many empty spots in this lineup against good pitching. And I think that's what you're getting at, that they're just not a consistent enough threat 1 through 9 every night to be able to chase down a team that, dare we say, the Astros now have a comfortable lead in the American League West, a 6.5-game lead as play opens today, tied for the second largest lead that any team has in all of Major League Baseball. I did not think I'd be saying that about the Astros 6 weeks ago, but here we are again. So I think for the Mariners, whether it's an upgraded second base, an upgraded third base, an upgraded DH, there are a third of their lineup can credibly be improved upon, which, hey, gives you some good canvas to talk about, to potentially search for upgrades. We all of us that follow the Mariners would like to say, sure, we'd like to see the Julio of 2 or 3 years ago be the Julio of now, but that's just not the present reality. So I think that's one other issue the Mariners have to tackle, but there's not much they can do with that from a roster management standpoint. They need to probably make a move or two, but the gap between the Astros and the Mariners is wider than I ever thought it would be, really at any point in time this season, but certainly not this quickly the way the Astros have played over the last 6 weeks or so.
Well, JP, you touched on Donovan Solano, and it just kind of fascinating because he's got his average back up to 263, and he had 10 RBIs on this road trip, and look, he's got his average back up to what you see career-wise, but we were just wondering, like, well, maybe this is it for his career. He's not going to get there, and he did, and it was just one of those very surprising things. And then they DFA Tellez, and so they made the right move so far. Anyway, what do you take from his play over on this road trip?
Yeah, I think it's a great point that he probably benefits, and whether it's consciously, subconsciously, from knowing now that he is going to get that job and play on a consistent basis. He came up as more of a middle infielder, more of a second base / third base type of a player. But as he's gotten older, I think it's natural to move him to a corner. And it's just it's where he fits the Mariners the best. It's where they needed the production. And I think more than anything, Donovan Solano's favorite position is in the batter's box. So he's probably not going to be the DH. And again, even there, you're not going to get consistent at-bats because Raleigh is rotating through there. They're still trying to get Polanco going. So first base is basically the spot where you can get your most consistent work. And I just think that he's one of those guys that, the basketball saying, shoot to get hot. He has to kind of shoot to get hot a little bit in terms of just getting his at-bats and getting into a rhythm. He's in a rhythm now. So don't change that. Let him go. Let him do what he's doing. And that's why I very purposely didn't mention first base a second ago in terms of a spot where I could see the Mariners looking to upgrade. It's just right now, my eyes certainly are telling me that Solano is, if not back to being the star-level player he was with San Francisco a number of years ago, he's an above-average bat right now. And so first base for me is spoken for. The larger question I have is how long can they go with both Young and Williamson playing every day or close to it as rookies, and really neither one of them producing much offensively. And I think that is what I see with this team. Is there a possibility of bringing in someone like a Ryan McMahon from Colorado? I do think they just had a change in executive leadership at the top within the last couple days. Maybe that indicates that they're going to be a bit more open-minded to really making some moves. The Rockies have been way too quiet for a team that's playing as poorly as they are. And so for me,
they're only 32 and a half games out.
Maybe that's finally signaling, guys, that Ryan McMahon could be available to a team like the Mariners. And I think he would be phenomenal in a Mariner uniform. Grew up in California, so he's a West Coast guy. I just think he'd be an excellent fit there. So stay tuned. But I think that the Mariners' needs are becoming ever more clear. And I think it's a good thing, to your question, Dave, that they seem to have solved the first base question from within. Tough to let go of a guy that is as respected as Tellez, but Solano was giving them a huge pick-me-up at first base.
So let's assume they're roughly where they're at now come trade deadline. They're 6.5 out, 7.5 out in the division. They're right now they have the third wild card by a half game. So let's just pretend they're in that spot when we approach the trade deadline. I'm just trying to figure out what their marker is where they say, you know what? I don't know if we're buyers. I wonder if they're like double digits out in the division and maybe they're 4 back in the wild. I'm trying to figure out where we're buyers, we're sellers, we're standing pat, what their philosophy is going to be with this.
I think actually it would have to take a fairly significant tumble for them to not be buyers at the deadline.
You base that on the AL being so weak and specifically the AL West being as bad?
Yes, and the context of their season. For example, presented with the same circumstances, the Kansas City Royals, the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners, I believe, would be more aggressive than the Royals. The Royals made the playoffs last year. They won a round. They won 4 games with the Yankees. They've got good pitching, but their offense is further away from being a playoff caliber offense than the Mariners' offense is. And again, the Royals made the playoffs last year. They checked that box. I realize that the Mariners won a round against Toronto several years ago now, but that's like ancient history, okay?
Yes, it is.
The Mariners they have gotten so close with this amazing pitching staff too many times to just kind of let this opportunity go. And I do think the front office, for a variety of reasons, seems to be a bit more aware of how the fan base feels, and the two of you are living it every day. You hear it every day. The fans are waiting for something to happen that tells them that their front office deeply, truly cares about investing in going for it, so to speak. And this is, you're 6.5 games back of. I'm not going to say that the Astros are a shell of who they used to be, but they're not as formidable as they used to be. They're not as feared and deep as they used to be. Kyle Tucker is gone. Bregman's gone. They've got a lot of their. Altuve is not exactly the same player that he was. Alvarez has been hurt. There's no way that team should be 6.5 games ahead of the Mariners right now. They shouldn't be. And I think that there's just enough of that. You know what? Let's prove something here. We got a catcher having arguably the greatest power hitting season that a catcher has ever had in the history of Major League Baseball. Been a lot of really great players that have played this position in this sport over the history of the game. And right now, Cal Raleigh is basically outperforming all of them at that position. You can't just sort of hum your way through a season like this and hope the pitching ends up being good enough. I mean, again, I reiterate, unless I see something definitively great from the likes of Castillo and Gilbert here in the next couple weeks, I would go out there and get another starter. I mean, that to me is at least as much of a concern as the lack of offense. I don't think you can assume that all of a sudden Castillo is going to bounce back to being a 2.5 or a 3 ERA guy over the full season. I think that you need to build in a bit more security around Wu, as great as Wu has been. It's a team that's good enough to make some upgrades. So my long way of answering the question is, I really see no way that they're sellers. No way. Maybe if they dip below 500, maybe it's more of a tepid buy. Mm-hmm. But they should buy. This league is there for the taking. Okay, it is. And the Yankees, they don't have Garrett Cole. They don't have Juan Soto, guys that helped them make the World Series last year. This is the year that unless you're clearly not good enough, and I count 3 teams that are clearly not good enough, you should be buying at the deadline in the American League.
It seems like there's like a groundswell of support all of a sudden nationally. We heard from Amsinger and Harold Reynolds just about what Cal is doing, not just offensively, but the fact that he has to put a cup on and squat and all of that, and now he's going to play in the home run derby. He's going to participate in that with his dad pitching, which is really cool. But yeah, I mean, how much can that help him? Let's say Cal, first of all, hits from both sides of the plate. If he wins the home run derby, is that going to be a significant notch up for him in the MVP race?
So it's a great question. I actually was thinking about this earlier today, partially because yesterday I talked to my brother, who is a baseball fan too. It's not going to surprise you. Lives in Tennessee, and we were talking about just baseball writ large, and he actually said, Hey, Bub. Bub is my family. Hey, Bub, what can you tell me about Cal Raleigh? I don't know anything about Cal Raleigh. Like, dude, are you not listening to Wyman and Bob? I mean, like how do you not know enough about Cal Raleigh? He coaches Little League. He's got he's a busy guy as a dad. But I said, Mike, come on, man. Like this guy's amazing. He's right there in the MVP conversation with Aaron Judge. But that's a good point. Okay, that's a good data point. My brother loves baseball. He plays in a men's league. He coaches his kids. Loves the game. But he needs to learn more about Cal Raleigh. Okay. And so now, I think that having having his dad pitch to him, which is great, of course. Grew up as a son of a coach, and so it's a perfect story.
Right. That
I think that more baseball fans like my brother are going to get a chance to learn more about the guy that we talk about every week, which is great for him. I think the MVP conversation is totally separate because now you're talking about the hyper-focused 30 people who have that ballot and watch the American League carefully every day. So I think that writ large, the home run derby is going to be great for his notoriety and his profile. I think the American League MVP voters are going to really focus in and say this, that do I see enough of any kind of tangible impact on the pitching staff, on sort of the non-obvious numbers, let's say, that Raleigh brings in the terms of how you view the catching position? Do the Mariners make the playoffs? There's a long debate about if that should matter. I do think it matters on some level. How much it matters is, again, up to every individual voter. Aaron Judge will probably have the better wins above replacement at the end of the day. He does as of today. And so there's no real wrong answer here, to be honest with you. But I think that it's, for me, it will definitely help Cal if the Mariners, A, make the playoffs, and if, B, the starting pitching plus him ends up being the reason why they do it. I'm trying to think of the narrative here, because I am someone who believes, for example, why I believe that Yadier Molina, as soon as I get the ballot, I'm just checking his name, 100% easy, Hall of Famer without a doubt. Because I just think catchers are not, you can give me every wins above replacement number, defensive framing, all that stuff, for reasons that the three of us have talked about at length for a long period of time. There is no number that's going to be able to fully describe why Cal Raleigh is so important to the Mariners. And so if Aaron Judge goes out and hits 64 homers and Cal hits 50, to me there's no wrong answer there. And I want to get out in front of the story and say this. If someone votes Aaron Judge 1 and Cal Raleigh 2, it's not as though you voted against Cal Raleigh. You voted for Aaron Judge, and Raleigh was second. Now, if you voted Judge 1 and Raleigh 10, we're going to have a conversation about that. But 1 and 2 is fundamentally different. And
it's not like voting against service or anything for manager of the year.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
What did you, I think, what was the phrase there? The worst of the winners. You voted him the last of the winners or something like that. I voted him third. It's like, oh my God,
out of three.
Yeah, third out of three. The least of the winners or whatever it was. That was a great episode, by the way. That should be part of the new the rejoin all the time. But anyways, I do think that the best I can tell you, and I don't even know honestly if I'm going to have the MVP ballot this year. It's a great discussion. I think we just got to wait and see. You might say that again, Judge has the higher wins above replacement. He's slugging like 700. I mean, it's unbelievable. And yet, one key difference, and this is important to point out, is that because of the way the Yankee lineup works now, Judge does not have to play center field basically on a daily basis because they now have Grisham and they've got Bellinger. They've got different guys that can fill in. And I think that is something to keep in mind. That a big reason why that I said it was without a doubt case closed when it was Judge versus Ohtani in the American League. It was, listen, Judge is playing center field, okay? It's a different level of value.
Yeah, it's premium position.
Premium position. And so, again, still a great player, obviously. Judge now offensively, this is the absolutely bonkers thing to say. He's better now than he was when he hit 62 homers. Like, it's just unbelievable.
Better hitter.
He's a better hitter. Yeah. Just think about that. And so he's great. Like great of the great. What he's doing right now is unbelievable. And so Raleigh is basically competing against someone that we've just never seen someone be this great for this long. It's unbelievable what Judge is doing. And so I think that there's two right answers, and we got 3 months left. And I'm glad that I don't have a ballot to mark right now because I just don't know what I'd do. It's just there are two great cases right now, and they're both equally strong.
Well, don't vote for Cal last.
Yeah,
okay?
That won't happen
last.
Yeah,
the last of the winners, I think.
That's right.
That was an all-timer.
John, quickly before we let you go, Cal's going to be in the home run derby, and depending on how he does, we know how that can grow a profile because it did it for Julio, even when he didn't win. Do you ever fear though the second half swoon, the drop off? I was telling Dave that started for me with Bobby Abreu. That's where that sort of fear was born, that he's on a tear going into the home run derby, participates. He's not the same hitter after the derby, whether they changed their swing or what. Something happened to the rhythm, and then thus the fear was born. If you participate, you're not going to have that same second half. Do you buy into any of that? Do you have any other examples outside of him that were extreme leading into it, and then they were just a different hitter coming out of it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there was one mini slump that Ryan Howard had one year. Prince Fielder seemed to always do great no matter what. Soto was great before, won it, and was great. So I don't think I don't see too much of a concern. I think Vladdy's numbers might have gone down a bit when he had a long in one, and obviously several years ago. I'm not terribly concerned. Rutschman comes to mind. Obviously, he hasn't quite been the same player. It's not because of the Derby. He's just kind of diminished a bit. I think I'm fascinated whenever a switch hitter does it, because then you just have the ability to I think sort of maybe minimize the fatigue. So I'm going to say this. Not worried at all about Cal doing it. I think it's a great story, and the balance of the swing will allow him, I believe, to ride through whatever ups and downs he might encounter that night and beyond. But I'm excited. He's going, of course, close to home. It's going to be a great story for him.
John, as always, great stuff. We appreciate you, my friend. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk next week.
Sounds great. We'll talk next week. We'll have a full Kraken free agency and draft to break down. Jason Bottrell is on the clock, the former Michigan Wolverine. He's got a big. Hey, they brought in. I thought it made Marchment. I like that trade there. So the Kraken, I think, are doing some good work there. Joe Veleno as well, former Red Wing. Good stuff.
We'll talk about it next week.
Thanks, Bub.
Looking forward to it. All the best, guys. Thank you.
See, there's Bub. There's Jon Morosi. Love the conversations with him each and every week. Always great stuff.